everyone, my name is Sloan and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to make moss bowls homemade for the very first time. I've never done this, but I did watch a lot of YouTube videos and read some articles and it seems like it's going to be easy. So we'll see. But basically the reason why I'm doing this is because I have multiple plants that are propagating that need to be potted up really badly. And they're already ready for poles. Like I want to get them started right away and I can't pot them up until I have the pole and they need potted up. So I have to do this basically. But I found two different techniques that we're going to try and I need 3 moss poles. So I'm going to try both techniques and then whichever one is easier or I like the aesthetics of better, I guess I'll do for the third. So first I will go over some of the materials that I think I need right now. I guess we'll see. First thing I got from Amazon. It is this black netting material that's going to be used on only one of the moss poles. It says hardware net. I don't know. I can link it down below. The holes on this were like a little bit bigger than I expected, but I think it's going to be fine. The next piece of material that is needed are bamboo sticks. This is going to be used for the other moss pole. And I don't think I need them to be this tall. I think these are 2 feet tall. And, you know, the pot is pretty small. So I'm going to need to cut this somehow. So that is to be determined how I'm going to cut this because I don't feel like breaking out a saw right now. So we'll see how cutting this goes. The next piece of material is this landscaping twine. It's essentially just twine. And then we have zip ties. I grabbed 2 in 2 different sizes. They were really cheap. I feel like the small ones should do the trick, but I have these like more heavy duty ones also. I guess we'll see. And then of course, sphagnum moss. This is New Zealand sphagnum moss. I've used it a little bit already, as you can kind of tell, and it seems to be a good moss. I don't know. I got this on Amazon as well, and I can link it. And then lastly, wire cutters. I'm pretty sure this is going to be very handy and helpful for cutting the netting, but I guess that is to be determined, and I'm sure I forgot something, so we will see what I forgot as I start this little adventure. And by the way, if you're thinking that this location is a little bit different, or maybe the way that my furniture looks seems a little funky, like this arcade being in a corner, I mentioned a couple videos back, or at some point at least, that we're renovating my office, which is also the sunroom. And so this is my craft desk, and it is now currently in the living room. So this is where I'll be making the moss bowls today. But I'm really looking forward to having that room renovated, and it's going to look so good. I have big plans for how that room is going to look with all my plants. Anyway, let's just get started. So I'm going to take this sphagnum moss and go hydrate it. So I'm going to put it in some water and then like squeeze some of the excess moisture out. I don't want it to be soaking wet. All right, so I moistened up some sphagnum. Oh my, I'm going to clean that up. I moistened this up. I don't know if this will be enough. I don't know if this is too much, but this is good for now. Okay, let's start with moss pole number 1, which is going to involve this netting. So I'm going to take it out of this bag. First thing I forgot, scissors. It'd be a lot easier to open this with scissors. All right, so after far too long, I got this out of its packaging, but now I need to figure out what size I actually want to make this. So that's why I have a pot here, and I have this ruler, and I'm just kind of trying to decide how tall I want it to be. But this is about a foot. The ruler's broken. So this is 11 inches. That seems pretty good. So, I don't know. This is all the way down at the bottom. And I don't know for sure if I'm going to do that or not. I just had an idea that is either genius or not going to work at all. We're going to try it. So, I am going to try taking the bamboo stakes and sticking it in the middle of this netting, so that way the bamboo stake can go all the way down into the bottom of the pot and be super stable, and the moss pole portion will stick up. I think this will work. I think it'll work great, but we're flying by the seat of our pants right now. Haven't even started, really, and I'm already changing what I'm doing. All right, here's a bamboo stick. And it's far too tall. I think these are 2 feet. So if I could cut this perfectly in half, that would be perfect for making 3 foot tall moss poles. 3 1 foot tall moss poles. All right, so you can't see my face super well, but you can at least see better what I'm doing. Here is said bamboo pole. I've got my ruler. And I don't know, we're gonna try the wire cutters and just see. It doesn't need to be perfect. It's working. I think a saw would definitely be better, but I don't know. It did the job. So now I have 2 that are roughly the same size, but not quite. Because I didn't cut it perfectly, but that's okay. So it'll be about this tall, which obviously, you know, won't last super long, but I'm okay with that. All right, so now I'm going to take this wire and unroll some of it. And the size that I'm looking for is going to be whatever sticks out of this pole, because I can just put the moss and everything up here. This is what I'm thinking will work. I hope this works. If I pack it really tight, I think it'll work. But anyway, so this much is how much I need of the netting. Which on this particular bamboo stick, keeping in mind that they are not exactly the same size, that's approximately 8.5 inches. On this one, it's like 7.25. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to measure about 8.5. And I feel like, again, this doesn't need to be super specific and accurate, but I'm just going to cut right there with the wire cutters to mark my spot. Oh yeah, this would be a lot easier with better wire cutters. Goodness. I've broken scissors from doing this with other wire crafts that I've done, but I'm going to try cutting the wire on this with scissors. I hope they don't break. Okay, that's actually way easier. So maybe it's fine. Yeah, maybe skip the issues I was having and just go ahead and use the regular scissors. But the real question is, how thick do I want this wire to be? You know, I'm thinking a cute little moss pole, so I don't want it to be cut too much. And so I'm checking just by kind of bending it. And I think this is probably plenty. So now I'm going to cut down the side. And I'm left with just this little piece of wire mesh. All right, this is the fun part. So first I kind of want to just hold it up. I do this all the time when I do projects, just to try and get an idea of what it will look like. All right, so if I were to redo this, which I'm not going to, I would definitely have cut this longer because I'm worried about the moss falling out. But this is an experiment, so I'm gonna make this, we're gonna see if it works, and go from there. So I have my 4-inch zip ties ready. So now I guess I will just start filling this up with sphagnum. And I'm going to try to get this little stick kind of placed in between all the sphagnum. And I'm not going to fasten this, I don't think. Better idea. See, I love crafts. I feel like it's fun to try things and just see how they turn out. So I just had a thought. I will fasten this pole because it doesn't need to be in the middle. I'm just gonna fasten it to the edge right here, and so then when I wrap this around, so I'm going to zip tie this little stick before I do anything else. And again, just looking at how it'll look like. All right, I think this is gonna be great. It's gonna be so cute. So now I'm gonna take the sphagnum and just kind of start filling it in. I'm trying to squeeze the water out of the sphagnum, and I just squeezed water everywhere. This is messy. Yeah, I don't know what I thought it would be, but it's messy. Does anyone else hate the smell of sphagnum moss? I don't know what it is. It's too earthy. I don't mind the smell of dirt. I don't mind the smell of neem oil. I don't think it's that bad. But I understand why people don't like the smell of neem oil, but I really don't understand. Like, people hate the smell of neem oil. Like, it doesn't smell great, but it's not that bad. I don't like the smell of sphagnum. I also don't like the fact that it's all over my hands. I will be right back. All right, hands are clean. So I'm going to see if this is enough sphagnum or too much. Look at how cute that is. Oh my goodness. Oh, I think I can pack in a little bit more in a couple places. This moss is pretty wet if I don't wring it out, but I'm not going to pot up these plants today. I'm just making the moss pools so I have them for whenever I decide to do repotting. And so it'll be fine if they are a little moist. So my phone ran out of storage, fun, but I didn't do too much before I noticed. I just took the zip ties and I zip tied the ends after I packed this pretty full of moss. And so the most important thing is to make sure that it's lined up as you're going. You don't want to end up with any squares off. And so I grabbed a zip tie at the top and at the bottom, and then every 3 squares or so I'm just adding another zip tie, and I'm kind of wrapping under the bamboo pole to just, you know, cinch it all together. And another cool thing about making your own moss poles is that I could easily have spray painted the wire mesh any color. I mean, I like the black. I think you can also buy different colors, but I could have spray painted it hot pink and that would look great. I mean, depending on your home. So that's kind of nice. If you do it yourself, it can be absolutely anything you want it to be. All right. For a first go, I'm pretty happy with this. And it was more fun than I expected. That was pretty easy. So the idea is if you keep it moist, then your plant will root into it as it climbs up. But even if you don't keep it moist, you have something to fasten it to. And this is how it'll look once it's in here. Hopefully it should be super stable. I guess the worst comes to worst when I was thinking about if it was too tall. Really, I'm thinking about see how there's like a bit of a gap? I'll try to gesture to it. There's like a bit of a gap, you know, right here. I can just cut this shorter. So we'll see. When I actually pot this up, maybe I'll do that. But I'm pretty happy with this. I'm going to add one more zip tie. And now I'm going to cut off all the tails, zip tie tails. And there's the final product. Here is the back. I definitely could have made it more aesthetically pleasing, but I mean, you're never going to see the back anyway. So I think this is going to work very well. But let's try the second method and see how that one goes. So the next method will only involve sphagnum, twine, and a bamboo stick. There's no wire involved, which is kind of nice. And I got this method from Feline Jungle. She's the only video that I've seen make on this, but I think it might be messier, but we'll see. Again, you're learning with me as we make these. So the first step is to take your bamboo stick and tie twine to the top portion. Okay, so once you do that, you should just have a little bamboo stick with twine tied to the top of it. And this next step is really just you take sphagnum and kind of apply it and slowly wrap the twine around it as you apply more sphagnum. Take a handful of moss and you kind of put it on the back of the bamboo stick. This is going to be really messy. And then you take another little piece of moss and you put that one on the front and just kind of take the twine and wrap it around. And so right now my moss being overly wet is not good for this. Definitely make sure you squeeze out a lot of the moisture for this because yeah, that super wet moss was not that easy to work with just now. Yeah, I'm doing little diagonal loops, but I'm sure you could do, you know, however you want to wrap it will likely be fine. And I'm actually going to scoot it up a bit because I didn't make it up high enough, but thankfully that was very easy to do. So this seems to be pretty forgiving. And this version isn't going to have any black on it, so it's probably going to be like a more natural looking moss pole if that's the look that you like to have for these. But both should work very well for their intended purpose of helping your plants grow big and tall and strong. In terms of enjoyment, I would say I feel like I enjoyed making the first one more. It was a lot cleaner in general just to make. Okay, so I've made it down to the bottom. I'm testing the height in here. I think I'm going to take out a little bit of moss. Okay, so then I'm going to take this twine and wrap up the opposite way. And so I was going diagonal one way and I'm going to go diagonal the other way. Now I'm going to work my way again back down to the bottom. And so I started at the bottom and then went to the top and now I'm going back down to the bottom. I probably don't need this third pass through, so I probably could have started at the top and it would have worked a little better, but overall I think it's turning out okay. And now I'm down at the bottom, so I'm going to cut this twine off and I'm going to tie it off. And yeah, this one is done. This one feels like a corn dog on a stick, but this is the difference between the two. They're very different, but I do like them both. When I look at them, I'm kind of surprised. I almost like the plain one better. I don't know. Like, this is definitely more of an eye catcher than this is. And when you're thinking about a plant growing up a pole, I mean, you want to look at the plant. You don't want to focus on its moss pole, ideally, I suppose. I'm trying to decide which one I should make for my third. So I did have to go grab some more moss, and I took some time to think about which one I wanted to do for my third while I was getting the moss. And I think I'm going to do another one of the black moss poles just to try it out again, because I think I can make it even better the second time. But I really like this one. I'm shocked. I anticipated to like the black one better, but I really like this. So I'm going to make another one of these and I will see you when I'm done, and I'll talk about all of the things I've learned during this process and what I maybe would do differently next time. So I'm already done. It hardly took any time at all. It took me 10 minutes. So I think this is something that once you get the hang of it, definitely the longest part will just be like getting all the materials out and soaking the sphagnum moss and that kind of thing. But I'm kind of getting ahead of myself. Let me show you what they'll look like. I'm still not sure what my favorite style is, but upon second go around, I definitely think the black mesh is easier to do. I mean, it's less messy because you don't have to actually physically hold the sphagnum as you make it. But some other things that I learned or maybe would try differently, I mean, I guess the big thing is what I just said, is that the middle one is messier, but like what I learned is that this is messy, which is kind of self-explanatory. Like, I think anytime you're working with sphagnum moss, it just tends to be messy, and yeah, I wasn't expecting it to be as messy as it was. I think it'd be easier if you had wire cutters, probably, but it's good to know that my wire that I got for this, the wire mesh, is thin enough that my scissors appear to be just fine. They cut through no problem. I think the biggest thing would be, if you had something better, like a saw or, I don't know, something better to cut the bamboo sticks, that would probably be good. I'm pretty proud of my bamboo stick idea. I don't think I've seen anyone do this. I feel like usually I just see people kind of put the wire together and like stick the pole in, but I'm not an expert. I don't know, maybe I did see this somewhere. But either way, I think it's going to work quite well for my plants. I'm going to try out both of these different kinds and we'll see, if one works better than the other. My plan for keeping them moist is, well, we'll see, but my tentative plan at least is to take the plants to the sink or the shower and like spray the moss. You can also soak it from the top. So I will eventually, hopefully soon, get my plants potted up with these moss poles, and I guess we will just see how it goes, and maybe I'll do an update in a few months or longer on which one, just whack myself in the face, on which one of these I felt like worked the best. And I'll probably make some more moss poles, and then once I get the hang of it and once I feel like I have a really good method, if I end up changing anything, and once I just do this a bit more to get a bit more experience, maybe I'll do a more put together tutorial. But the last thing I want to say is that if you're at all on the fence about trying this, or if you've been thinking about it, it's really easy to pick up, and there's a lot of room for you to try different things and be creative if you want to, or not do that at all and just stick with a tutorial or watch this one video, and I'm sure you would be fully equipped to try it yourself. It's very easy. So with that, I want to thank you so much for watching, and if you like this video, please like it, comment below, and let me know if you've ever tried making your own moss pole or if there's another technique that I should try, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!